I'm just, I wish, why don't I have hair like you? Do we have the same daddy?
No, man. I just got lucky.
I guess.
I used to not, I used to, that's another thing is that I don't know what to do with my hair until about 2 months ago. A comic called me the Latino Kim Jong-un. And then I was like, okay, I got to fix my hair. Clearly it wasn't working. So what I was doing was I was like buzzing because, I get
Yeah,
gray on the side.
sure.
So I was buzzing this and leaving this. And he called me the Latino Kim Jong-un. And I was like, okay, that's not working. So I went to the stylist and he goes, okay, this is what I recommend. Just stop it. So he goes, well, more. Okay.
It just seems full. That's pretty good.
Is losing fun? Is losing fun?
No.
What are you having fun for?
Hello, we are upon baseball season, so we thought we would discuss the 2011 film Moneyball. And it's kind of a cinematic miracle if you think about it, that this great movie, not good movie, great movie would come out of this book of the same name, same title, Moneyball, 2003, Michael Lewis, who's a great writer in his own right. And it does serve, the book serves as a biography of sorts for Billy Beane, the Oakland Athletics GM. But it's also a book about kind of management and the inefficiencies of baseball teams and how they kind of analyze baseball players sometimes improperly and undervalue their players. So Moneyball, the book, is based on Bill James' writing, who's a fantastic baseball writer. And he used to pose these fantastic questions about why baseball teams operate the way they do. He would ask questions like this: why isn't Darrell Evans in the Hall of Fame? Look at his stats. Why is Ron Say so greatly underappreciated and valued? And so this is kind of like the question that Bill James would ask, the book Moneyball asked, and the kind of is at the heart of the movie. By the way, the answer to Darrell Evans not being in the Hall of Fame is because silly reasons, didn't play in a big enough market like New York. Ron Say used to run funny. He was playing in the shadow of maybe the all-time great third baseman, Mike Schmidt. So these things can fool people and so make them undervalue great players that can help your team, which takes us to the film Moneyball. It is, you got to start with, let's start with the direction. It is beautifully directed by Bennett Miller. And the way it opens, the music in the background with Johnny Damon coming up to bat, facing, I believe, the Rocket, and you just kind of get into it. It is a movie that smells like baseball. It is maybe the most baseball movie that's ever been made, but also it can entertain anybody because it's about the underdog, the players that are undervalued. It's not surprising to me that it's written by Steven Zaillian and Aaron Sorkin, maybe the greatest Hollywood writers alive today. And then, of course, you think about Brad Pitt, and his acting is very restrained and controlled. He has so many great lines that he could oversell, but he keeps it. He's Brad Pitt. He holds it, and it's funny because I also think Philip Seymour Hoffman does this. Now, if you've never seen a movie with Philip Seymour Hoffman, you might not appreciate what he's doing in this film. He's playing the coach, the manager, who's very frustrated by Billy Beane and his new, right? He's trying to field a team, an Oakland A's team that has lost Jason Giambi, Johnny Damon, Jason Isringhausen. How do you do it? While you keep up with, no, you don't keep up with the Yankees. You can't keep up with the Yankees. How about we play our own style of game where we get this, as the Peter Brand character says, we get this island of misfit toys type of players and we cobble them together. And it brings frustration in Art Howe, played by Philip Seymour Hoffman. But if you've never seen another film with Philip Seymour Hoffman, you might think, wow, he just kind of stands there. He doesn't do anything. It's not adorned. But that's what makes it so interesting, is that he's just kind of this guy standing there seething in the background, and it's well played, I think. Jonah does something different. He doesn't force the lines, and I think a lot of poor actors would have done it because it's a well-written screenplay. It really is. But Jonah Hill is sort of sitting there with this Oakland A's hat, and he's reacting, and it's funny. I have something to say a little bit about some of the ways in which the team is managed by the manager, but also by Billy Beane, and how he what he values not only in his players but in his philosophy. In his philosophy of management is very interesting. But before we get there, I want to ask you, Jacob, what are your thoughts about Moneyball?
Uh, I was so excited about reviewing this film. I see this film, Ruben, every year right before baseball season starts. It gets me going, gets me ready for the season. And it is one of my favorite movies. For sure, my favorite baseball movie. I think it's the best baseball movie of all time, in my opinion. Is it the best sports movie? That's a debatable thing, but for sure, baseball film of all time. And you mentioned so many good things. I just want to share a couple things that you didn't mention, but I do want to say something about Jonah Hill, though. Uh, Last night after the film, my family watched it with me. I didn't ask them to. Normally, I'm sitting there by myself, and they just kind of come into the room and they're watching and they don't leave. And at the end, by the end of the film, I hear Orion repeating all my son Orion repeating the lines of Jonah Hill, and I go, man, Jonah Hill has some really cool lines, you know, and they're not a lot of them because he takes a backseat to Billy Beane. But I think as teachers, I look at that. I looked at the film a little differently this time as Billy Beane really being a great mentor to the Jonah Hill character, which is the Peter Brand, right? Paul DePodesta character. And so, and one thing I did see is that he's watching him and he's saying, hey, you know what? For example, there's this one scene, Ruben, that I liked where he's telling him, someday you might have to let go of somebody. He's like, the Jonah Hill character is like, I don't have to do that. No, no, no. Someday you might
But
have to
someday,
release a player.
someday you might have to
You might have to release a player or trade a player.
cut, cut a player from the team.
Right.
The Bean character tells that to
The Billy Bean character
Jonah Hill.
tells that to the Jonah Hill character who played Peter Brandt. And so he's like, no, I'm not gonna, I don't have to do that. And finally he gets him to say, oh, yeah, um, it's going to happen. And he said, okay, I'll play along. And he played along the possibility of being cut. And they go through this little role play. And so the whole point is that there is a time where Jonah Hill does have to release a player, right? And he does exactly how Billy Beane asked him to do it. And so this whole thing regarding Moneyball, yes, I mean, sometimes you forget because it's kind of a lot of it is the Jonah Hill character's ideas, but Billy Beane's the one who took it and took the responsibilities, and he's the leader, he's the director, he's the mentor, he's the coach of him, you know. And so I really appreciate that part of the movie. And I do want to say something too, is because I agree with you about Philip Seymour Hoffman. So Philip Seymour Hoffman, there's a scene where they're talking in the office, and Billy Beane is like saying, you know what? Um, I should have brought you in when we are putting this together. And I like that he said that because it's true. I think that was one of Billy Beane's mistakes is not bringing in the coach in sooner with all of the decisions they were making, he just kind of kept them a little arm's distance. And so I think Art Howe's character, Art Howe was very upset as Phil Hoffman, right? He was a little upset about that. And so
Philip
that
Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Philip Seymour Hoffman. How did I mess it up? Philip Seymour Hoffman. And so I think that showing that to us is true because he did make a mistake, and that is the coach of the team. You do need, and then once he was trying to, but it was too late to rectify that, right? And we know later on he doesn't even bring him back the next year. But yeah, I really appreciate this film. I'll say one last thing, Ruben. I really enjoy the father's daughter relationship because you really start understanding why Billy Beane made some of his decisions, financial decisions, to stay with the team or not stay with the team. And his daughter meant the world to him. There's every scene with him and his daughter, it's just beautiful. And it really puts a little tears to your eye. Especially there's a scene where she's playing a guitar for him and he's just doting on his daughter and loving her. And you could tell that this guy does not want to be away from this girl, during her formative years. So great film, father-daughter stuff, team, coaching, mentoring. It has everything. It's just a great film.
The father-daughter stuff I could have done without, not because I'm a hard-hearted jerk. But to me, when it's going on, it's sweet. But I find myself thinking, can we get to the baseball? Okay. I do want to say that it's an unusual film if you think about how there are multiple characters who are underdogs, including the Art Howe character, if you think about it, because earlier on you're watching this and you kind of don't like the guy. But you make a great point that Billy Beane didn't include Art Howe in the process of building this team, rebuilding the team. And the other thing, though, is that you kind of start feeling good about Art Howe and how he's part of this because the manager is part of the success of this team. And they win 20 in a row. Uh, but look at these little broken pieces, these little misfit toys, as the Peter Brand character says. David Justice, too old. Chad Bradford, psycho delivery. Scott Hatterberg, burnt out catcher. And they put them together, more underdogs. And it's not a typical thing. If you have all these, people put together to create this unit. I want to say something about what I really got out of the Billy Beane philosophy here this time around. So, two moments. The one thing that I remember, it's been many years since I've seen this film, but the one thing that I always remembered was the record, the 20 wins in a row, because I'm always wondering who's next, to break it, whatever. But that scene always stuck with me. And as I watched it again this time, Jonah Hill is talking to Billy Beane, Brad Pitt says, 20 in a row, right? You got the record. And Billy Beane says, so what? Later, at the end, the Boston Red Sox offer him the world, the moon. And Jonah Hill says to Billy Beane, Peter Brand says to Billy Beane, this is the greatest GM contract in all of sports. And Billy Beane says, I don't care. What does that mean? And what hit me this time is most people would say, yes, we got the record. Wow. Oh, I'm the richest GM in the history of sports. Billy Beane, if he had said, wow, I think it's the moment he starts to decline. But because he never looks back, he doesn't turn into a pile of salt,
Right.
right? He keeps going. And I think a lot of us are tempted to rest on our laurels, but we have to, our accomplishments and our records, if we have them, but we have to keep going and keep doing good things. I also want to mention that there's a really great scene. So this is a teaching channel. I agree with the point you brought out with Art Howe. Bring somebody in the process, but also he sits with David Justice And Billy Bean says to him, be a leader, be in on this. He was very honest with David Justice. Let's be honest with each other what we want out of this relationship. Former star, but we want to eat the last bit of baseball out of you. Can you please be a leader for us? And they agree. And I thought about this because your students need honesty and they need collaboration with you. You can get some of your strongest students to be on your side to get more done. There's no greater ally than other students. Bring them in on the process, and you will be a great unit as you get to your goals as a class. So, just wanted to bring that out.
Yeah, I mean, to go along with that, I just want to say one last thing. There's a point of the film where you really believe the team is Jonah Hill's and Brad Pitt's team, right? And this is when they start trading a lot of their players after the trade deadline, and you see them in the in not in the clubhouse talking to the players, and you realize not all general managers do that. They don't go in and talk to players. And he did that, and Jonah, the assistant general manager, was in there too. And because it just felt like a very big team effort to go with what you just shared, it's so important to go work with your students and make them feel not to make them feel like you're over them or really try to connect with them and let them know that hey, we're trying to get you through this. I was telling them I have a lot of seniors this year, and I'm constantly telling them we're working together to get you through the finish line, to get you past, to get you that diploma. I'm with you. I want when you succeed, I succeed. And so I think seeing the Oakland A's succeed, it's not at one point, um, Jonah Hill's character looks at Brad Pitt's like, hey, they're making a big deal about Art Howe, the coach, but Brad Pitt's character, Billy Bean's like, hey, I just heard 7 wins. I mean, it's all about winning.
That's
It's all
right.
about, it's
That
such
was
a
a
great
great,
scene,
it was a great reply.
wasn't it? Yeah,
Yes, because Peter Brown, hey, Art House taking the credit. What I hear is 7 wins in a row.
that's all that matters.
Don't worry about the credit. Just succeed, and keep going.
Just go for it. And so that's what I think regarding with our kids, and to go along with what you just said, that's what our point is, and that's our job is to help these kids succeed and do well. And to see that on the film, what a great example of a teaching movie and a coaching movie. And yeah, I'm just really excited about everyone check. If you haven't checked this out, friends and family and people out there, do that because I think you will not be sad about this. You'll be very happy about this film.
Very good. Thank you, everybody. Please like and subscribe and tell us what you think about Moneyball. And we'll see you next time. Goodbye.